Crash landing. The starship's alarms blared as searing beams of plasma raked across its hull. Princess Lyra Stellaris, last survivor of the royal house of Astrolux, gripped the control yoke with white-knuckled intensity. Outrunning her pursuers had proven more difficult than she'd anticipated. Computer, status report. Lyra barked, her melodic voice tight with tension. Hull integrity at 27%, the ship A responded calmly. Aft shields offline. Forward cannon disabled. Hyperdrive critically damaged. Shall I prepare your escape pod, Princess? Lyra exhaled sharply through clenched teeth. Escape pod. The final resort of the doomed and desperate. But what choice did she have? The rebel forces that had slaughtered her family and seized control of the Astrolux Empire would not rest until she, too, was nothing more than stardust. Do it, she commanded, already unbuckling from the pilot's seat. Plot a course for the nearest inhabited world outside rebel territory. Affirmative. Nearest suitable world is a Level 3 civilization, pre-interstellar, designation, Earth, Terran branch, Orion Spur, charting course now. The deck shuddered beneath Lyra's boots as she sprinted towards the escape pod bay. The ship shook again, more violently, as the hull's integrity dwindled under the relentless assault. Lyra dove into the cramped confines of the pod just as a series of explosions ripped through the corridor behind her. The pod's hatch hissed shut, and Lyra was slammed back into the acceleration couch as the tiny craft punched its way clear of the dying starship. Through the pod's solitary viewport, Lyra watched helplessly as her family's last royal frigate bloomed into a miniature sun, vaporized by a final volley from the rebel cruisers. Tears of grief and rage sparkled unched in her striking violet eyes. She would survive this day. She would find a way to strike back against those who had stolen her birthright. For the honor of Astrolux, she would see the Empire restored. But first, she had to survive the pod's violent shaking as it knifed into Earth's atmosphere. Angry ruby flames of re-entry filled the viewport, blotting out the stars. The pod groaned and shook, ceramical hull pinging as it shed velocity. Lyra braced herself, jaw set in grim determination as the altimeter wound down with terrifying speed. The crash was as sudden as it was brutal. The pod slammed into yielding earth, carving a ragged scar across an expanse of dark green vegetation. Inside, Lyra's head cracked against the bulkhead and starbursts of pain flared across her vision. The acrid scent of burning insulation flooded the cabin as the craft skidded to a smoking halt. Lyra pried herself out of the crumpled acceleration couch, blood trickling from a gash above her eye. She snatched up the pod's survival kit and hit the hatch release with a trembling fist. The egress door blasted free, letting in a flood of humid, pollen-scented air. Alien sunlight, shockingly golden after the icy light of Astrolux's binary stars, spilled into the pod. Wincing, one arm clasped across her bruised ribs, Lyra staggered out of the wreckage and dropped to her knees upon the strange soil of an alien world. Sucking in a ragged breath, she blinked up at the blue vault of an unfamiliar sky. Stranded light years from her shattered empire, alone on a primitive planet, Lyra felt the first icy tendrils of despair coil around her heart. It was then, as the enormity of her isolation crashed over the exiled princess, that a curious sound pierced her misery. A rustling of leaves, a tentative scuffing of paws through the underbrush. Lyra's head snapped around, instincts knife-edged. Her hand dropped to the plasma pistol at her hip. From a tangle of alien foliage, a creature emerged. Four-legged and furry, with warm brown eyes and a lolling pink tongue. It wasn't growling or snarling, which Lyra took as a good omen. The creature, her xenobiology training suggested it was a subspecies of Terran canid, took a cautious step closer, head cocked as it studied the battered princess. "Hello there," Lyra said softly, loosening her grip on the plasma pistol. "I don't suppose you have the faintest idea where I am." The creature woofed softly and, to Lyra's shock, began to wag its tail. Lyra felt the despair that had threatened to swamp her recede, ever so slightly. Perhaps she wasn't entirely alone on this strange new world. Perhaps, with a little luck and a lot of determination, a resourceful princess and a friendly native creature could find a way to turn the tables on fate itself. Unlikely companions. As the adrenaline of her harrowing escape ebbed, Princess Lyra felt the full weight of her injuries. Her ribs ached with every breath and the gash above her eye throbbed mercilessly. She needed shelter, a chance to tend her wounds and take stock of her situation. The shaggy Terran canid padded closer, its bushy tail swishing gently. Lyra extended a hand, palm up, hoping the gesture translated across species. "I don't suppose you know a safe place to rest and regroup?" she asked, not expecting an answer. To her amazement, the creature nosed her hand, then turned and trotted a few steps into the dense foliage before pausing to look back at her expectantly. Lyra blinked. "You want me to follow you?" The canid woofed softly, its intelligent eyes fixed on the battered princess. Lyra shrugged, immediately regretting the motion as pain lanced through her torso. "Well, I suppose you know this world better than I do. Lead on, my furry friend." As they trekked through the lush alien forest, Lyra marveled at her guide's sure-footedness. The canid navigated the tangled undergrowth with ease, pausing periodically to ensure the limping princess was still following. Lyra found herself oddly touched by the creature's apparent concern for her well-being. After what felt like an eternity, they emerged into a small clearing dominated by a towering tree with sprawling roots. Nestled between two massive roots was a hollow just large enough for Lyra to crawl into. The canid nosed at the opening, then looked back at Lyra, tail wagging. "A shelter. Good boy," Lyra murmured, sinking to her knees to peer into the hollow. It was dry and clean, lined with a soft bed of moss and dead leaves. Exhausted and aching, the princess crawled inside, curling up on the surprisingly comfortable natural bedding. To her surprise, the canid squeezed in beside her, its warm furry bulk pressing comfortingly against her back. Despite the strangeness of her situation, Lyra felt a wave of gratitude for her unexpected companion. "Thank you," she whispered, scratching gently behind the creature's ears. It leaned into her touch, eyes closing blissfully. As the shock of the day's events caught up with her, Lyra felt herself slipping towards unconsciousness. But before exhaustion claimed her, a sudden thought jolted her back to wakefulness. Her ship. If the rebels tracked her pod's trajectory, she'd be defenseless. She needed to contact her allies, rally the loyalist forces. But her comm unit had been on the ship. Lyra sat up abruptly, ignoring the screaming protest of her battered body. The canid whined quizzically as the princess dug frantically through the survival pack she'd salvaged from the escape pod. Food rations, a basic medkit, a compact plasma pistol, a few tools, there. Her fingers closed around a fist-sized metallic sphere. A portable quantum entanglement communicator. Hope surged anew in Lyra's chest as she activated the device. If she could just boost the signal, send out a coded transmission on the loyalist frequency. But as the HFY's holographic interface flickered to life, Lyra's heart sank. The crash had damaged the device. The signal was too weak, the range too limited. She'd need to repair it, enhance its capabilities. But she was no engineer, and this world was centuries away from the technology she needed. As if sensing her distress, Lyra's canid companion nuzzled her hand, whining softly. Lyra looked down into those warm, intelligent eyes and felt her resolve crystallize. She was Princess Lyra Stellaris of the House Astrolux. She would not let a little thing like being stranded on a primitive world stop her. She'd find a way to repair the HFY, contact her people, and take back her empire. And she wouldn't be doing it alone. "Looks like it's you and me against the galaxy, my friend," Lyra murmured, ruffling the canid's fur. "I think I'll call you Nova. Together, we'll light the way forward. For Astrolux, for my people, and for hope." With her newfound resolve and her loyal companion by her side, Lyra allowed herself to slip into a healing sleep, her brilliant mind already turning over the problem of the damaged HFY. She dreamed of star charts and schematics, of loyal soldiers and treacherous enemies. And through it all, the warm presence of Nova guarded her slumber, a steadfast sentinel against the perils of an alien world. Quantum entanglements. Princess Lyra awoke to golden shafts of sunlight piercing the canopy, painting the forest floor in dappled emerald hues. Nova lay curled against her side, the loyal canid's warm bulk a comforting reminder that she wasn't alone on this strange world. Lyra stretched giddily, pleased to note that her injuries had begun to heal, accelerated by her species' advanced biology. Her mind zeroed in on the problem that had consumed her dreams, the damaged quantum entanglement communicator. To repair it, she'd need tools, materials, and expertise far beyond what this primitive planet could offer. Also, she'd thought. As Lyra emerged from the sheltering roots, Nova at her heels, a sudden idea struck her. This world might be pre-interstellar, but that didn't mean it was devoid of scientific knowledge. Many civilizations developed advanced theoretical frameworks long before achieving practical spaceflight. If she could find a local scientist, someone whose understanding of quantum mechanics was sufficiently advanced. Energized by this new possibility, Lyra set out through the alien forest, Nova trotting happily by her side. They'd need to locate a settlement, somewhere Lyra could observe the locals and assess their level of scientific development. Perhaps she could even acquire some native clothing to blend in. Hours later, as the sun reached its zenith, Lyra and Nova crouched at the edge of a vast clearing, watching in fascination as sleek ground vehicles zipped along a strip of hard black material. The structures on the far side of the clearing were uniform and utilitarian, all sharp angles and gleaming metal. Lyra's heart leaped. This was no primitive village. The architecture spoke of an industrial civilization, at least. Then she saw it, a towering edifice set apart from the others, its facade adorned with complex geometric patterns that tickled something in Lyra's memory. Her eyes widened. The sacred equations of the Andari Codex, the foundational mathematical language of advanced quantum theory, etched into alien metal. What was this place? As it can answer, a door opened at the structure's base and a figure emerged. A Terran, clad in a long white coat, dark hair pulled back from a face alight with excitement. The Terran was speaking animatedly to a small rectangular device held aloft, words tumbling out in a torrent of technical jargon that Lyra's translation matrix struggled to decipher. Breakthrough in quantum entanglement, the Terran was saying, her voice high and fast with exhilaration. The new protocol increases the stability of the entangled pair by an order of magnitude. We're on the cusp of reliable superluminal communication. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. Superluminal communication. This Terran scientist had independently developed the principles behind Lyra's damaged HFY. Suddenly, repairing the device seemed within reach. Heart pounding, Lyra stepped out from the tree line, Nova close at her heels. The Terran scientist froze as Lyra emerged, dark eyes widening in shock as she took in Lyra's tattered flight suit and unearthly violet eyes. For a long moment, the two women simply stared at each other, a princess of the stars and a pioneer of Terran physics, an unlikely meeting of minds across the gulf of space. Then Nova barked happily, tail wagging as he looked between the two bipeds. The spell broke. The Terran scientist blinked, then breathed out a single word: extraordinary. Lyra drew herself up, calling upon a lifetime of royal training to project calm authority. "Greetings," she said, the translation matrix rendering her words in the Terran tongue. "I am Princess Lyra Stellaris of the Astrolux Empire. I come in peace, seeking aid." The Terran scientist shook her head, as if to clear it. Then a brilliant smile broke across her face. "Dr. Zara Adani, Director of Quantum Research at the Harmonics Institute. Your Highness, I have so many questions." Lyra found herself returning the smile, a spark of hope kindling in her chest. "Dr. Adani, I believe we have much to discuss. My people have a saying, in the face of the impossible, seek the improbable ally. I think perhaps I found mine. As Lyra and Dr. Adani shook hands, Nova dancing excitedly around their feet, the first tentative bonds of an extraordinary partnership began to form. The princess, the scientist, and the loyal canid, three unlikely companions, drawn together by the strange currents of fate and the promise of quantum entanglement. Together, they would devise a plan to repair Lyra's communicator and restore her to her rightful place. And in the process, they might just forge a new future, one where the stars were not strangers, but neighbors, united by the unbreakable bonds of friendship and the limitless potential of the human spirit. Hunted. In the days that followed, Princess Lyra and Dr. Zora Adani worked tirelessly to repair the damaged quantum entanglement communicator. They holed up in Zora's private laboratory at the Harmonix Institute, poring over schematics and equations, merging Lyra's advanced Astroluxian technology with Zora's cutting-edge Terran innovations. Nova quickly became a beloved mascot at the Institute, his friendly presence and uncanny intuition winning over even the most skeptical of Zora's colleagues. The loyal canid seemed to sense the urgency of their mission, often nudging Lyra or Zora with a gentle whine when they'd been hunched over their work for too long, reminding them to take breaks. Despite the challenges of integrating two vastly different technological frameworks, Lyra and Zora made steady progress. They bonded over their shared passion for scientific discovery, trading stories of their respective worlds and marveling at the strange twists of fate that had brought them together. But even as they grew closer to their goal, a sense of unease plagued Lyra. She couldn't shake the feeling that her pursuers were closing in. That time was running out. Her fears were confirmed when, late one night as they labored over a particularly tricky bit of quantum circuitry, Nova suddenly bolted upright, hackles raised and a low growl rumbling in his throat. "What is it, boy?" Lyra asked, instantly alert. Nova's keen senses had proven invaluable in the past, warning them of approaching Institute security patrols and curious colleagues. In answer, Nova padded to the lab's window, nosing aside the blinds to peer out into the night. Lyra and Zora joined him, gazing out over the darkened campus. At first, they saw nothing amiss. Then, a flicker of movement caught Lyra's eye. A shadow, darting between buildings with uncanny speed and agility. Lyra's blood ran cold. She knew that predatory grace, that unnatural stillness. Chrono Commandos, the elite hunters of the rebel forces. "They found me," Lyra breathed, fear and determination warring in her voice. "Zora, we need to act fast. If they capture me, if they discover your world's involvement." Zora laid a comforting hand on Lyra's shoulder, her dark eyes glinting with resolve. "We won't let that happen," she said firmly. "We're so close to getting the QEC operational. We just need a little more time." Lyra nodded, mind racing. They couldn't risk a confrontation here, not with so many innocents nearby. They needed to lead the Chrono Commandos away, buy themselves the time to complete their work and contact Lyra's loyalist allies. "Nova," Lyra said, kneeling to face her faithful companion, "I need you to create a diversion, lead them away from the Institute. Zora and I will finish the repairs and signal for extraction. Can you do that for me, boy?" Nova licked Lyra's face, his tail wagging in determination. Lyra hugged him fiercely, blinking back sudden tears. "Be careful," she whispered. "Come back to me." With a final woof of reassurance, Nova slipped out of the lab, disappearing into the shadowed corridors of the Institute. Lyra and Zora shared a look of grim determination, then turned back to their work with renewed urgency. The fate of worlds hung in the balance. Over the next harrowing hour, Lyra and Zora pushed themselves to their limits, fingers flying over the delicate quantum components as they raced against time. Distant sounds of pursuit and evasion echoed through the night, a grim reminder of the stakes. Lyra's heart clenched with each faint bark or snarl, her imagination conjuring terrible visions of Nova facing down the ruthless Chrono Commandos. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm her, just as she feared all was lost, The HFY flared to life, its holographic display coalescing into a shimmering starfield. Zara let out a whoop of triumph, fingers flying over the interface as she locked onto the loyalist frequency Lyra had provided. "This is Princess Lyra Stellaris of the Astrolux Empire." Lyra spoke into the receiver, her voice ringing with authority. "Requesting immediate extraction and support. Rebel forces in pursuit. Transmitting coordinates now." The response was immediate, a wave of relieved acknowledgements and mobilization orders cascading from the TEC speakers. Loyalist ships were converging on her position, the might of the true Astrolux Empire rallying to their princess's aid. But even as hope surged anew, a terrible realization struck Lyra. Nova. She couldn't leave without him, couldn't abandon her faithful friend to the mercies of the rebel hunters. Zara, seeing the anguish on Lyra's face, laid a hand on her arm. "Go," she said softly. "Bring him home. I'll guide your people in." Lyra clasped Zara's hand, a wealth of gratitude and admiration in her violet eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Then, steeling herself, Lyra raced out into the night, guided by the distant sounds of conflict and the unbreakable bond between a princess and her loyal companion. She would find Nova, would stand with him against the forces that threatened them both. For in the end, it was not just technology or tactics that would win the day, but the indomitable power of friendship, the unyielding strength of the sentient spirit. And as Lyra ran towards her final confrontation, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them as she had from the start, with courage, determination, and the unwavering support of her unlikely allies. Cosmic convergence. Princess Lyra raced through the shadowed campus of the Harmonix Institute, heart pounding in time with her footfalls. The sounds of distant conflict, the sizzle of plasma fire, the harsh cries of the chrono commandos, Nova's defiant barks, spurred her on, driving her towards her loyal companion. As she ran, Lyra's mind raced with strategies and contingencies, the tactical training of her royal upbringing meshing with the hard-won lessons of her exile. She knew she was outnumbered and outgunned, the chrono commandos far better equipped for battle than a lone princess with a single plasma pistol. But she also knew she had something they didn't, the fierce, unbreakable bond with a creature who had become more than just a friend. Nova was family, and Lyra would move the very stars themselves to keep him safe. Just as Lyra rounded a corner, plasma pistol at the ready, the world seemed to shudder around her. A wave of vertigo washed over her, the air itself seeming to ripple and distort. Lyra stumbled, catching herself against a wall as reality warped and twisted. In the distance, she heard Nova's bark take on a strange, echoing quality, as if resounding from the end of a long tunnel. "What's happening?" Lyra gasped, fighting to keep her balance as the ground beneath her feet seemed to shift and sway. As if in answer, a brilliant light bloomed in the center of the campus quadrangle, a seething vortex of energy that pulsed with an otherworldly radiance. Lyra shielded her eyes, squinting into the maelstrom. At the heart of the vortex, she could just make out two figures: Nova, his fur standing on end as he faced down a towering chrono commando, the hunter's armor scorched and battered from their prolonged duel. With a sinking realization, Lyra understood. The quantum entanglement communicator. In linking it with Zara's experimental quantum tech, in using it to signal across the vast reaches of space, they'd done more than just send a message. They created a resonance, a feedback loop that was causing localized distortions in the fabric of spacetime itself. The vortex was a manifestation of that resonance, a tangible echo of their actions rippling across reality. Lyra's scientific mind raced to calculate the implications, even as her heart urged her forward towards Nova and the threat he faced. If the vortex continued to grow, to feed off the energy of their quantum link, the consequences could be catastrophic. Localized distortions could give way to larger disruptions, the very laws of physics unraveling in the wake of their unintended cosmic convergence. But even as the enormity of the situation threatened to overwhelm her, Lyra's resolve only hardened. She would not let this anomaly, born of their desperate gambit to secure her people's future, threatened the world that had become her sanctuary. She would not let it claim Nova, her loyal friend, her steadfast guardian. With a wordless cry of defiance, Laura charged towards the vortex, plasma pistol blazing as she fired at the Chrono Commando, drawing his attention away from Nova. The hunter turned, his own weapon rising to meet her challenge, but his movements seemed sluggish, distorted by the strange currents of the anomaly. Lyra and Nova fought as one, the princess and her loyal hound, moving in perfect sync as they danced around the Chrono Commando's increasingly erratic attacks. The vortex pulsed and swelled around them, bathing the battle in an eerie, flickering light. Lara could feel the crackle of exotic energies across her skin, could taste the metallic tang of warped spacetime on her tongue. With a final, desperate lunge, Lara tackled the commando, sending them both tumbling into the heart of the vortex. Nova leaped after her, his jaws clamping down on the hunter's armored wrist, wrenching the plasma rifle from his grasp. The weapon clattered to the ground, instantly swallowed by the roiling energies of the anomaly. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, Lyra, Nova, and the Chrono Commando hung suspended in the eye of the cosmic storm, the vortex raging around them like a sentient thing. Lyra could feel the weight of the universe pressing down upon her, could sense the delicate balance of forces that held reality together straining at the seams. Then, with a blinding flash and a roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of existence, the vortex collapsed in on itself, taking the three combatants with it. Lyra felt a wrenching sensation, a disorienting lurch as if she were being stretched and compressed all at once. Her vision swam, her senses overwhelmed by a cacophony of sensations beyond human experience. When the world finally stabilized around her, Lyra found herself someplace else entirely. Gone was the familiar quadrangle of the Harmonics Institute, replaced by an infinite expanse of swirling colors and pulsing lights. She floated in a vast, effervescent void, Nova tumbling alongside her, the Chrono Commando nowhere to be seen. "Where are we?" Lyra whispered, her voice swallowed by the uncanny silence of this strange realm. As if in response, a presence coalesced before her, a being of pure energy, its form shifting and flowing like quicksilver. It spoke directly into her mind, its voice a resonance that seemed to echo from the very fabric of reality itself. "You stand at the crossroads of possibility," the being intoned, its words reverberating through Lyra's very soul. "Your actions have drawn the attention of forces beyond your ken. The balance of the cosmos has been upset. A reckoning is at hand." Lyra swallowed hard, her hand finding Nova's reassuring warmth. The loyal Canid pressed close to her side, his presence a steadying anchor in this realm of cosmic strangeness. "What must I do?" Lyra asked, her voice steady despite the overwhelming nature of her situation. "How can I set things right?" The being's form shimmered, a ripple of amusement passing through its quicksilver essence. "The path ahead is not fixed, child of Astrolux. The choices you make, the alliances you forge, the strength of your spirit, these will determine the fate of worlds. But know this, you do not face this trial alone. The bonds you have forged, the loyalty you have earned, the love you have nurtured, these are your greatest strengths. Draw upon them, and you may yet find a way to restore the balance." With those cryptic words, the being vanished, leaving Lyra and Nova adrift in the endless expanse of the cosmic crossroads. Lyra looked down at her faithful companion, seeing her own determination mirrored in his intelligent eyes. "Together, then," she murmured, scratching behind Nova's ears. "As always, let's find a way home." As if in response to her words, the void around them began to shift and change, the swirling colors coalescing into familiar shapes, the towering edifice of the Harmonics Institute, the lush forests of Earth, the gleaming spires of Astrolux. And beyond them, 1,000 other worlds, 1,000,000 other possibilities, all waiting to be explored. Lyra felt a thrill of excitement, of purpose, surge through her. The road ahead might be uncertain, the challenges daunting, but she knew she had the strength to face them. For she was Princess Lyra Stellaris, daughter of Astrolux, and she would not face her destiny alone. With Nova by her side, with the power of their bond and the resilience of their spirits, they would find a way to restore balance to the cosmos and to carve out a future brighter than any star. The cosmic convergence had opened a door, had set them on a path that would change the very fabric of reality. And Lyra was ready to take the first step, to embrace the endless possibilities that awaited them. For in the end, it was not the destination that mattered, but the journey itself, and the unbreakable bonds forged along the way. The Quantum Nexus Ultimatum. In the shimmering expanse of the cosmic crossroads, Princess Lyra and Nova floated hand in paw, that bond a beacon of stability amidst the swirling chaos of infinity. The enigmatic being's words echoed in Lyra's mind, a cryptic promise and a dire warning all in one. The fate of worlds, of the very balance of the cosmos, rested upon the choices they would make in this strange, liminal space between realities. As if summoned by Lyra's thoughts, a familiar figure materialized beside them, coalescing from the effervescent ether. Dr. Zara Adani, her dark hair fanning out in a halo around her head, her eyes wide with wonder and trepidation. "Lyra, Nova, what's happening? Where are we?" Zara's voice was breathless, awestruck by the uncanny vista that stretched out before them. Lyra reached out, clasping Zara's hand in her own, anchoring her friend in the face of the unknown. "We're at the heart of the quantum anomaly," she explained, her voice steady despite the magnitude of their situation. "The resonance from the communicator, the feedback from your experimental tech, it's created a nexus, a crossroads of possibility." Zara's brilliant mind raced to keep pace, her scientific curiosity warring with a growing sense of trepidation. The implications, the potential for dimensional instability, for cascading quantum failures. "Lyra, what have we done?" Before Lyra could respond, the cosmic being materialized before them once more, its quicksilver form pulsing with barely contained power. "What you have done," it intoned, its voice a resonance that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, "is upset the delicate balance of the multiverse. Your actions, born of desperation and hope, have set in motion a chain of events that threaten the very fabric of reality." Lyra felt a chill run down her spine, a cold knot of dread forming in the pit of her stomach. Beside her, Nova whined softly, pressing closer to her side. Zara's grip on her hand tightened, a lifeline in the face of the unknown. "What can we do?" Lyra asked, her voice small but determined in the vastness of the cosmic expanse. "How can we set things right?" The being seemed to consider for a moment, its form shimmering and shifting like a mirage. Then, with a pulse of energy that sent ripples through the fabric of space-time itself, it split into 3 distinct forms, each one hovering before Lyra, Nova, and Zara in turn. "You stand at a crossroads," the being said, its tripartite voice echoing with the weight of eternity. "3 paths lie before you, 3 potential futures for your worlds and for the cosmos itself." Before Lyra, a shimmering portal coalesced, a window into a familiar reality. She saw the gleaming spires of Astrolux, the lush forests of Earth, all as they had been before her desperate flight and fateful crash. "The path of preservation," the being intoned. "Restore the balance, return to the way things were. Your empire preserved, Earth protected, but forever separate, forever isolated." Beside Lyra, a second portal bloomed before Nova, a swirling vortex of crimson energy. Within, Lyra glimpsed the burning ruins of Astrolux, the shattered remains of Earth, all consumed by the fires of war and conquest. "The path of annihilation," the being spoke, its voice heavy with sorrow. "Let the anomaly consume all, let the multiverse burn. An end to all suffering, but an end to all life as well." Finally, before Zara, a third portal shimmered into existence, an iridescent gateway pulsing with infinite possibility. Through it, Lyra saw strange new worlds, alien civilizations, and wonders beyond imagining, all connected by shimmering threads of quantum energy. "The path of ascension," the being said, its voice ringing with a note of hope. Embrace the change, transcend the limitations of your current existence. A new era of exploration and discovery, but at the cost of all you have ever known. Lyra felt the weight of the choice pressing down upon her, the fate of worlds resting on her shoulders. She looked to Nova, to Zara, seeing the same conflicted emotions playing out across their faces. Preserve the status quo, let the multiverse burn, or leap into the unknown. Each path carried its own risks, its own rewards. In that moment, suspended between heartbeats, Lyra saw with crystalline clarity the threads that bound them all together, the unbreakable bond of loyalty and love that tied her to Nova, the friendship and shared purpose that connected her to Zara, the web of causality that entangled their fates with those of the cosmos itself. And in that clarity, she found her answer. "No," Lyra said, her voice ringing out with quiet conviction. "We reject these paths, these predetermined destinies. We forge our own path, one that combines the best of all three." She turned to Nova, to Zara, seeing the dawning realization in their eyes, the glimmer of hope and determination kindling anew. "We preserve what is good and just, what is worth fighting for. We protect those who cannot protect themselves, be they human, Astroluxian, or any other sentient being. But we do not fear change, do not shy away from the unknown. We embrace the potential for growth, for discovery, for connection across the stars." Lyra faced the cosmic being, her head held high, her violet eyes blazing with resolve. "We choose a path of balance, of unity, of hope. A path where the strength of our bonds, the resilience of our spirits, can overcome any obstacle. A path where the destiny of our worlds is not dictated by cosmic forces, but shaped by the choices we make together." As she spoke, Lyra felt a surge of energy coursing through her, a warmth that seemed to emanate from the very core of her being. Beside her, Nova and Zara glowed with the same inner light, their essence resonating in perfect harmony with her own. The portals before them began to shift and change, the divergent paths blurring together, merging into a single, shimmering gateway. The path of balance, the cosmic being intoned, its tripartite voice thrumming with a note of approval. A bold choice, a difficult road, but perhaps the only road that offers a true chance for lasting peace, for meaningful growth. Step forward, then, champions of unity. Forge your path, and let the cosmos itself bear witness to the power of your conviction. Hand in hand, heart to heart, Lyra, Nova, and Zara stepped through the shimmering portal, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They knew the road would not be easy, that there would be setbacks and sacrifices, trials and tribulations. But they also knew that they would face them together, drawing strength from the unbreakable bonds of loyalty, friendship, and love that had carried them this far. And as they emerged onto the other side, into a brave new universe filled with infinite possibilities, they knew that nothing would ever be the same again. For they were the champions of a new era, the heralds of a cosmic renaissance that would reshape the very fabric of reality itself. And with every step they took, every choice they made, they would bring the multiverse one step closer to a future of lasting peace, of eternal wonder, and of boundless hope. Cosmic Renaissance. As the shimmering portal closed behind them, Princess Lyra, Nova, and Dr. Zara Adani found themselves standing on a precipice of wonder, a vast, luminous expanse stretching out before them, pulsing with the vibrant energies of a universe reborn. The air itself seemed to thrum with possibility, each breath suffused with the electric tang of unwritten destinies and untapped potentials. Welcome, champions of unity, to the dawn of a new era. The voice that greeted them was at once familiar and utterly alien, a resonant synthesis of the cosmic being's tripartite tones, now harmonized into a single melodious whole. Behold the fruit of your labors, the manifestation of your choices. Lyra gazed out upon the awe-inspiring vista, her heart swelling with a complex mix of emotions, relief, trepidation, and an all-encompassing sense of purpose. Beside her, Nova's tail wagged in a steady, determined rhythm, the loyal canid's presence a steadfast anchor amidst the sea of cosmic flux. Zara, her dark eyes wide with scientific wonder, reached out to clasp Lyra's hand, the gesture a wordless affirmation of their unbreakable connection. "What happens now?" Lyra asked, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Where do we go from here?" The luminous expanse before them shimmered, coalescing into a kaleidoscopic tapestry of worlds and wonders, the gleaming spires of a reborn Astrolux, the verdant landscapes of a rejuvenated Earth, and countless other realms both familiar and strikingly alien. "That, my dear champions, is entirely up to you," the cosmic voice replied, a note of gentle encouragement in its timbre. "The path you have chosen is one of infinite possibility, of boundless potential. It is a path that will challenge you, test you, and ultimately allow you to grow in ways you never dreamed possible." Lyra nodded, the weight of responsibility settling upon her shoulders like a mantle of stardust. She knew the road ahead would not be easy, but there would be obstacles to overcome, differences to reconcile, and scars to heal. But she also knew that she would not face these trials alone. With Nova's unwavering loyalty, Zara's brilliant mind, and the strength of the bonds they had forged, she felt ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. "We'll need to rebuild," Lyra mused, her gaze drifting over the shimmering images of Astrolux and Earth. "Not just our worlds, but the connections between them. We'll need to find a way to bridge the gulf between our peoples, to foster understanding and cooperation in the face of our differences." Zara squeezed Lyra's hand, a spark of excitement kindling in her eyes. "And we'll need to continue our research, to push the boundaries of what's possible with quantum entanglement and interdimensional communication. Imagine what we could achieve, Lyra. A network of worlds, united by the power of knowledge and the strength of our shared conviction." Nova barked his agreement, his tail wagging with renewed vigor. Lyra couldn't help but smile, marveling at the remarkable journey that had brought them to this point. A journey that had begun with a desperate escape and an unlikely friendship, and had culminated in a cosmic renaissance that would echo across the stars. "Then let us begin," Lyra declared, her voice ringing with a clarity of purpose. "Let us forge a new path, one step at a time, guided by the light of our shared vision and the warmth of our unbreakable bond." As if in response to her words, the luminous expanse before them began to shift and change, the kaleidoscopic tapestry of worlds resolving into a single shimmering portal. Through it, Lyra glimpsed the familiar contours of her home world, the soaring towers of the royal palace, the lush gardens where she had played as a child, the bustling streets where her people now looked to the stars with renewed hope. Hand in hand, heart to heart, Lyra, Nova, and Zara stepped through the portal, ready to begin the work of rebuilding, of healing, and of forging a future brighter than any they had dared to imagine. They knew the task would not be easy, that there would be setbacks and challenges, moments of doubt and uncertainty. But they also knew that they would face these trials as they had faced every challenge thus far, together, united by the unbreakable bonds of love, loyalty, and shared purpose. As they emerged onto the soil of a reborn Astrolux, the air crisp with the promise of new beginnings, Lyra felt a swell of gratitude and awe suffuse her being. She marveled at the twists of fate and the depths of courage that had brought them to this moment. A princess, a loyal canid, and a brilliant scientist, standing on the threshold of a new era, ready to guide their worlds towards a future of endless possibility. And as they took their first steps into this brave new universe, Lyra knew that their journey was far from over, that there would be new adventures to embark upon, new connections to forge, and new wonders to discover. But she also knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them as they always had, with open hearts, indomitable spirits, and the unwavering conviction that in unity there was strength enough to reshape the very fabric of the cosmos. So hand in hand, heart to heart, they strode forward into the dawning light of a cosmic renaissance, ready to embrace the infinite potential of a universe reborn and to write the next chapter of their extraordinary story among the stars.